We have 3 microphones. Hopefully
Hello.
they're all on.
Hello,
Testing,
hello,
testing. 1, 2, 3. Hi.
Hello.
So
hello.
I'm John.
Wow.
This is TuijaTakala. Okay, let me introduce her properly. So Tuija is a professor. She's Dr. TuijaTakala at the University of Helsinki in Finland. And she is the co-author of this book, which I read, and I hope you'll read, The Letters to Sarah. This is Corky Laing, obviously, because by process of elimination. Let's just say that we're really happy to be here. We love the Nantucket Book Festival, right, Cork?
I love it. I'm having the greatest time.
Right?
Yeah, remember I told you I thought I'd be nervous playing like Carnegie Hall or radio. I'm nervous. This is nervous time. You know?
Let's just say how nervous we are. We drove in my old Volvo. We parked across where I'm hoping they'll give us a ticket because, by the way, today they start giving tickets. Yeah. We parked over next to the post office, and Corky said, "Could we go get a shot somewhere?" And I thought the nearest bar.
This was an innocent shot.
No. The nearest bar is the Charlie Noble, and we all had a celebratory shot of tequila. Yeah, so we're in the zone.
We're ready for this.
We're in the zone. But it's to celebrate so much. First of all, we love the book festival. I mean, the book film festival next week. But the book festival in its 9th year, we want to thank Mary Haft. We want to thank Wendy Hudson. We want to thank Theron Dunn. We want to thank the phenomenal staff of everyone. Maddie, right? Everybody who has made this all happen. And here at the Atheneum in this great hall. So let's talk about this book and how it came to be. All right, let's do that. All right? So it sort of goes back to this photograph, which is why it's on the wall, right?
That's right.
Who's in that photograph?
This is my part of my large family. Those are my triplet brothers. And I'm in front there. I have the bad hair in front. And my sister there is standing in the back. And as a preliminary statement here, this is one of the reasons why I took up drums, because my brothers were all getting the attention, and so was my lovely sister. So I was the baby in the family. And from then on, I did everything I could to get noticed. And for any of you who have kids, if the kids want to get noticed, get a drum set. You cannot, you'll always pay attention to that, right?
I'm looking at those cars. That's like 1922, Corky? What is that?
They're the early Bee Gees. The Bee Gees go way back.
Okay, fine. Okay, so am I right to think, is this story true? Because I know that you are the teller of the truth, Tuija, as well. Then you kept track of all these stories. But what you told me, I think one day, although I want to make sure with you, is that because the triplet brothers were getting all the attention and your sister was older and beautiful and smart and all those things, you're at their mother's feet while she's cooking dinner and you're banging her wooden spoons on the pots and pans in the kitchen.
You got it, yeah, that's it.
Am I right?
You're right, you're perfectly right.
Did she give them to you? Did you take them out?
No, you grab them. You got to be very assertive. If you're going to be, you know the story of drummers, they're all assertive and aggressive, and yes, I did take them.
Boom, boom, boom. So the mom was like, get the fuck out, little thing. And next thing you know.
But you remember what happened is I went to my mom and way back, and I remember seeing Gene Krupa on television. I said, you know, Mom, I want to grow up and be a drummer. And she said, Lori, you're going to have to choose one or the other. Patrice. Okay.
Okay, so Lawrence Gordon Laing grows up in Montreal, Canada. And his brothers can't pronounce Gordon or Lawrence, so they call you Gordy.
No, 2-year-old to say Lawrence. That's right. So they were 2 years older than me. They couldn't pronounce Lawrence, so my mother says, try his middle name, which is Gordon, which they couldn't get either. So they call me Goo-Goo. And that, I didn't like that. So they turned it into Gork, and they still call me Gork. And they couldn't call me Porky because, I don't know, the point is I'm happy with Corky. It sort of sounds like a pilot, like a Learjet pilot. Hey, Corky's flying us, you know. Yeah, anyways, so it worked. Yeah, it worked out nice job.
So Montreal, and Jewish.
Yeah.
So where's your Yamaha?
I don't have my Yamaha on right now, but I am definitely chanting.
He's got, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. He knows all these things.
This is the Irish Jew.
Well,
it's amazing,
I learned from hanging out with him for the last, decades.
Yeah.
So look, but here we're here to talk about this book. So let's just go back for, I read it, I made notes. I don't know that we're going to look at any of my notes. Let me just say that if you buy this book, and you should, because it's at DreamWorks.
Two hamburgers, a loaf of bread.
Oh, there's the wrong notes. Mitchell's, Bookworks. What would we do without those two great stores? We'd be illiterate. Thank you. Amazon, okay, fine, you get it here tomorrow. You get it here before you order it. I tell you what, take a walk up Main Street, go down Broad Street, go into the bookstore, see Dick Burns. He's there in person. Talk about, get a cup of coffee, go back to Wendy's World. And
I think he had 2 shots.
Oh, my God. Kinky Friedman. Who knows Kinky Friedman? Okay. Wrote the introduction, the foreword. Let me just say what he says. What makes this book great, poignant and compelling, is the spiritual counterpoint between a nice Jewish boy from Montreal who remained close to his mother and the utter depravity of a rock star's life upon the road. Okay? There's been a million books from the rock stars of the world who have written books about what it's like backstage with the Rolling Stones and snorting this and doing that and shooting that, whatever. But there has never been a book like this. Okay? This is a guy who, while he was on the road, touring the world, playing rock and roll to all the depraved teenagers in the world like me out there during the 60s, 70s, and 80s at the original Woodstock and thereon, wrote 200 letters to his mother from the road. Corky, how awesome was that, man? I sent a couple postcards, but what was it? What was it?
Again, you have the family. Let's rewind here for a second. I had to stay tethered because John is making it look like a celebrity life. When you're 14 years old and you're playing Oshkosh, no-name Quebec, these are tertiary markets, and it gets very, very lonely out there. That was the beginning of 14, 15 years old with a couple of guys staying in one motel room, eating too many egg sandwiches and passing too much gas. You get lonely. And I would write my mother in order, do you remember me, Mom? I'm the little guy. So I happened to write her a great deal as I traveled around throughout the years. If you don't mind me carrying on, John.
Go!
What happened is my mother saved these 200-odd letters over 30 years, put them in a box along with my first set of drumsticks in a box. She saved. Mothers do that. They're amazing. They have better memories than any elephant you'll ever count. The point is, Tuija and I were working on a project 5-6 years ago, and she found this box stored away with a lot of things. The point is, she says, we were talking, if I may say that. Why don't you take over?
Let me swing it over here. Okay, so this is Dr. Takala. Okay, so Doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, I hope, and some level. No, doctor of philosophy and applied philosophy, right? Yeah. So how do you apply philosophy to a life like this? I mean,
you can't.
You can't. No.
No, there's totally different project.
No,
totally different.
Kierkegaard fails you when it comes to dealing with Corky.
Well,
right?
existentialism, yes, does help a little bit, but yeah. but no, in terms of, we were thinking of writing a memoir before we found.
But wait, let's go back to Manchester, New York, Manchester, England. You're a doctor of philosophy,
yes.
but you're a rock and roll. You love rock and roll.
Yes.
So she's a fan. So she goes to England, Manchester, England, to go hear Corky play. Mountain.
Yeah, I was working at the university there at the time.
Oh, you were?
Yes,
okay,
I was living in Manchester, England, and I saw a poster of Mountain playing there. I was like, Mountain? Are they still on the road? And then, I don't know, one thing led to another. We got
basically,
into
I just wanted to jump on her bones. It was pretty great ahead.
Come on,
at that time.
This is a part of you that we don't want in the book or anywhere out here.
No, it's out there. Okay, so wait. So let's just say you meet, and then you invite him, right, to come to do work on an opera about God?
Playing God, yeah. I mean, the thing that got us into talking was that Corky was at the time lecturing in Canada in a couple of universities. Because
he wanted
to be in the university world. I always wanted to be in the rock world. So we sort of kept together because we thought there's something for both of us in this relationship. So the first time I asked Corky over to give a lecture at the University of Helsinki in November 2011. But at that time, I was already working on a rock opera called Playing God that deals with the ethics of genetics. But
ethics of genetics. Did you hear that? The Ethics of Genetics, a rock opera about this. Sorry, go ahead.
And then I quickly sort of realized that maybe being an academic is not enough to make a rock opera. You might actually need someone who knows rock and stuff. And then Corky was the obvious choice, sort of. And then in January 2012, he came over for 10 days, and the rest is history. Then I started to build his brand, and I became his manager and became quite a few things.
Wait, so you wrote a rock opera?
Well, no, really, let's put it in
The
proportion.
music.
What happened is the subject matter of this playing God was way over my head. It's manipulation of genetic, I can't even... What I'm saying is they needed simple music because the content was pretty involved. So nothing is simpler than a drummer writing music. So it was a commission, and what a great commission. So I was able to write the music to the subject matter and some of the stories, which was a lot of fun, and quite frankly, it was challenging. But what happened here is Tuija had it all written out, and she had connections with different universities. So the first university we took to
Basel, Switzerland.
in Basel, yeah. This play was tried out in quite a few. And I say tried out because it was a work in progress. And then we went to Yale. We went to Yale, and then Rutgers.
Cornell.
Oh, Cornell. So we did this show at a beautiful theater in New York, near Cornell University. And it's just funny, I gotta tell you, because here I'm running around and you think you're playing music and you think it'll be a young, vibrant crowd. And how wrong when I went to do this play, I noticed the audience all looked like ZZ Top. You know, they had these long beards, and they're basically professors who love music and heavy rock. So that was really good. But the point is, the demographic of this play spanned what? From students to grandparents to... It was quite... You know what? I'm going to say this. The opera, the rock opera, is coming out in video next year on an English company. We'll keep you posted, okay?
Okay, so here's what they connect creatively, okay? And Tuija, in the process, goes online to find out stuff about Corky's biography, and there isn't anything well organized about him at all at that point, online, in social media, okay? You can look up, you know, whatever you want to look up, and so Tuija begins to put it together, and right?
Yes, I started to put together a webpage for a homepage for Corky so that people would find information about him. And in the process of doing that, I realized, whoa, there's quite a life that the guy has lived, so maybe we'll try to write a biography. And then we started...
For the websites.
First for the websites, and then because I've been writing is what I do, so I thought we'll write a proper book of it. But for a long time we were struggling with how to make this special. There's so many rock biographies, autobiographies out there. We were toying with the idea of a fictional Mississippi Queen being the storyteller in it and all that, but none of them really work. But then we found the letters, and then we had the timeline, and we have something really special in there. So,
the 200 letters from Sarah that Sarah left. She passed away, Corky's mom, in 1998, so 20 years ago. And they find this treasure trove, and that is the way in. I just want to flash back just to connect this book to another book that we discussed the other day, John Burnham Schwartz's book called The Red Daughter. You remember that's the book about Svetlana Stalin, Joseph Stalin's daughter, who came to the United States in the early 60s. And John Schwartz told us that he spent 2 years doing research trying to figure out how to get into the book, the way they spent 2 years talking about how to write the story so that it would be something more than just a rock and roll biography. And when they discovered the letters, they found a way in. And what John Burnham Schwartz did is that he read her memoirs, her diaries, and then he realized that he could rewrite those diaries as fiction. So anyway, the beauty here is that there's a lot of thought that goes into all of this.
Can I say something?
How to write a book.
We get asked, since we started with the book doing our promo, they ask, like, how long did you work on it? And it's not a matter of time. This is what I found out becoming a new writer. It was hundreds and thousands of miles, because we were crossing back and forth to Finland and going on tour, and we put it together. Literally, forget time. The mileage we did, really, going back and forth to Finland, not to mention in Nantucket, coming here and going to Nantucket and writing. So that's what hit me, because in music, in rock, if you want to say, traveling is what you do. Dizzy Gillespie said, we don't get paid to play, we get paid to travel. And if we got paid to travel, dude, we would be buying this country. But that's the truth of the matter. It was a wonderful experience, because we just wrote back and forth, and it goes way back, right, John, to Nantucket when we first got here, the cobblestone roads. I met my first very best friend, God bless him, Nicky Farentella, who was my guide over years and years in Nantucket. When you're on the road, the agenda, meet the best looking guy and meet the best looking girl and hang out, and everything else will take place. Well, I don't know if you know Nicky, but he was a good-looking dude, and he had a beautiful yellow MG. Who would not want to be that guy coming into a summer in Nantucket and saying, I want to get to know this guy? So as a result of hanging with him, he was also a drummer, or an aspiring drummer. And long story short, he was my guide through Nantucket. He's the guy that introduced me to Roy Bailey, who became a good friend. And in those years, the friendship was very tight, because I don't think Nantucket was that busy, especially during the winter. One of my best friends, who was a big inspiration, if you don't mind me rambling on with my 14 coffees, was Frank Conroy, who became a very good friend, and we started writing together. And I'm going into this only because to jumpstart writing is one thing, writing books. I'm a newbie, but music that Frank Conroy told me about, because he wrote beautiful novels. I said, Frank, let's try this. Let's try writing a story in a song. Just so every verse becomes a chapter, and every chapter becomes a chorus. And he taught me a lot about that, and it sort of gravitated towards writing, and the pleasure and the joy of writing anything. And then you got the drumming. That was the other side. You had writing, drumming, writing. I was conflicted, but the bottom line is there's no better place to morph your life in every way as in Nantucket. And yes, I'll say this particular festival is everything.
Corky had come here with a band that he had created in Montreal, brought it to New York, played the Peppermint Lounge in the 60s. It was a band called Bartholomew Plus 3. That morphed into Energy, and Energy played at 30 Acres. The great Parry family is here. There's Julian Stanley sitting in the back. But you remember the Parrys, and everybody here remembers 30 Acres, which we completely loved from way, way, way back. If you don't know about it, it was sort of like the Chicken Box, but really cool. Really cool. Out there off Bartlett Road. There's a street named after it now. One night, I just want to say, I was there in, I think it's 1968, when, on Nantucket, we always had power failures. The lights would go out because, the generators would fail. The whole island would go black. So one night, there's a band playing. I don't know who the band is. All I can tell you, I'm having a beer. I'm dancing like crazy, man. And the power goes out, and the electric guitars die. Of course, you can't hear a thing. But the drumming keeps on going, and it goes on.
It was Cripple Creek. Down on Cripple Creek, she sends me if I spring a leak. She defends me. John puts his head in my bass drum. I have no idea what he's doing down there, but he's enjoying himself. And Roy Bailey is dancing his ass off with this beautiful girl from Mississippi. And I'm thinking, wow, she wore a see-through knitted dress. It was really hot. And the lights go out, you're right. And I sit and I say, hey, Mississippi. Go ahead, sing along.
Mississippi Queen.
Yeah. So I was trying to pick her up. Again, the shallow, transparent drummer that I am. Come on, Mississippi. And I go, you know what I mean? And she's like winking at me. And I'm going, hey, I mean.
People are falling on the wayside. It's 20 minutes. It's a half an hour. He's still drumming. Going
up on
crazy.
Cripple Creek. And I'm thinking,
boom.
oh, boom. It's nothing but drums. And then I say, how do I keep her dancing? Cowbell.
Because the more she dances, the sweatier she gets, and the sweatier she gets, the more you can see through her top.
This is getting a bit pornographic, John. Take it back a couple of dBs, okay? So, and I'm doing everything I can. How do you pick a girl up playing drums? I mean, I'm stuck there. But anyways, keep on playing, and I'm looking, and she's smiling, and I didn't get lucky. Roy Bailey took her home, and he got lucky. But what I did do was I saved the lyrics that night that I was writing to that beat. Mississippi Queen. It worked out perfectly. A year later, I got lucky. There you go.
That's a true story. Okay. So Mountain, you know, let's talk about Mountain just for a second. So, you know, it was formed by originally by a guy called Felix Papalardi, who lived here on Nantucket as well, came here in the summers from New York City and Long Island, right? Queens. Ultimately bought a house out in Pulpus. But, you know, Felix had produced a very powerful rock trio in England called Cream. We remember Ginger Baker on drums, Jack Bruce on bass, and Eric Clapton on lead guitar. It was the first real serious power trio in rock and roll history. Yeah. And it was produced by a guy who lived on Nantucket in those days named Felix Papalardi, a kind of wiry, skinny fucking genius. A wanted to do an American version of that, so he said, let's try to find a power trio here. And so I found a singer that Corky had already known from the days in Long Island, named Leslie West, who was a bigger-than-life guy. Wait, I want to say what you described Leslie West in the book as a stoned-out, cross-dressed, sleep-deprived, decadent, overweight, long-haired, junkie hippie.
Yeah, that was in capsule form.
And Leslie West, you do, Leslie.
I can do Leslie a bit, but he sort of sounds like Harry Feinstein. All right, they got that bass voice. They come down here, you know, and everything was swearing. Every second word was MF, MF, MF. But anyways, he always dressed like a parrot. He had not that you couldn't notice him anywhere because his hair was out to here, right? And he walked around. And I remember we're going on the road, and Felix says, "Can you get some airport clothes?" Airport, that's like beyond accountant outfit, you know, because I'd walk behind Leslie and he'd be like, you know, he had these fringes, you know, in those days everything was, and you walk along.
Fringes,
yeah. And I'd walk behind him just to see the people look at him going, you know, this goes back to the early 70s. So it was fun. But Felix moved, like you said.
They needed a drummer.
Yeah.
And they met Corky. Yeah. And Corky was as insane and as great as they were.
I don't understand this insane thing. Keeps on coming up.
Okay, but I think what you're feeling here is that there's like a volcano of creative energy here. We're talking about, you know, like Vesuvius of free association, okay? We could go on for days, and we have, by the way, for the last 3 days. But what you did, am I right, is that you're the doctor of philosophy. You think logically, or you help write this and put it into something that people could actually chapters.
Yeah, well, I hope I managed to do it. I mean, he told the stories, I wrote them down, but I tried to keep his voice there throughout. I just wanted to keep the voice so that someone can follow it. I mean, when he talks, you can follow him because of the charisma and things. But when you start writing it down, you realize, oh, okay, we need to B to follow from A and not from go to A to Z and then back to
Every once in a while,
again.
You need a comma and a period, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I figured everybody would expect the decadent story about snorting ants off the cement with Ozzy Osbourne. She said, no way. No way, it's going to be a book. It's going to be a real book. So she did put, I have to say, and I'll say this, I know she's right here. If it wasn't for Tuija, there'd be no book. And frankly, there would be no common sense that goes on in my life. Anyways, she managed to pull it together and go on, Tom.
I mean, I did try to keep it. It's not like it's not a boring chronological thing because that wouldn't be Corky. So I tried to get it. I'm reading all those letters. Corky didn't even read all the letters because I typed them all down so that I was able to see which parts would fit with the book and all that. So it was a really strange process of getting to know the man in some ways, I think, better than he himself knew him in certain ways.
The genius, I think, of what you did and what you contributed to this process is that you channeled Corky and you didn't ever lose his voice in the writing of it. That's a very particular voice that he speaks with, right? It's filled with humor and...
The shy, very unassuming, quiet man. Go ahead.
And it's, again, going back to John Burnham Schwartz with, Stalin's daughter, he channeled her. And there's a process as a writer, I think, where you have to be a kind of mystic, a kind of clairvoyance, a kind of subconscious understanding, and really, and you take it seriously, and if you're lucky, it happens, right? So what was that like? Because you wrote sometimes when he wasn't around, when he was traveling or whatever, and then you would give it to him, and he would doctor it and make it, adjust it to make it his own voice. It may be this and that, but am I right that there was this symbiotic process going on?
Very much so, yes.
You must know by now, being at the festival, how much work it takes if you're a writer or you're marketing. I never realized personally, and I think a lot of people don't know, how much work it takes to write. And how much patience. Writing is one thing, it's bringing it out. And if you're lucky enough to have a collaborator that does, like in a symbiotic way, work with you and take it in, you're really freaking lucky, because that's what this is all about, is the luck that you have with people and with people you're working with and even writing with. It's really a lot to do with luck. And I think, speaking of Schwartz, the one thing he said that I really connected with was this aspect of freedom. When you find yourself at home, that's when you feel the most free. I think that's the way and I'm thinking the same thing, is the book took me home. The book, I was tethered to my mother and my family. It's really a family book, but I was tethered, and that in itself made me feel free. Not desperate, not lonely, which goes with the program, but you feel the freedom to write and to go and to take risks, and you're still in touch. You're still in touch, and that's what I got from Schwartz.
The other thing that's bringing it back to the Atheneum in Nantucket. Remember what it would be like to be, anybody out there in the public eye, and you're on stage and you're playing to thousands of people, and you're touring on jets all over the world, and the pressure that is. So what you did, am I right, is that you came back to Nantucket to connect to something that you loved. You rode horses, you lived out in Mayacomet, you had a house out there, you'd go to the beach, you had all these great friends like Nikki and Julian and all the other great Nantucket people, right?
Our 10,000 hours really was at 30 acres and the chicken box. So, you can read about how important that is in any kind of creative endeavor. You gotta get your chops together. And the Perrys, Pesky, all those guys played into that, because everybody was into it. This wasn't a fake life. It was real, and it was great. It was great. Those days were great. And by the way, those days are today. Just being here with you can't be any freaking better than those 50 years ago. You know why? Because we all got a pulse. We all got a pulse.
Corky, you're so right, man. So right. I opened the book this morning. I just on my bed. I just opened any random letter from Sarah. This one's on page 125. Would you read this for us? This is from just part of it, if you want. October 24th, 1970. Do you need glasses?
You know what? I have my John Burnham novel. There they are.
There you go.
John Burnham Schwartz. Excuse me.
From 1970, at the height of Mountain's fame.
Okay, where am I here?
Yeah, just
Okay. Sarah, I was just sitting back and getting mellow, so I decided to write you a short note. This is Saturday night, in brackets, early Sunday morning, actually, and we're just finished playing upstate New York. Tonight was another one of those great nights. The band really got off, and so did the audience. It's again something that I can't really explain, but you were at the Fillmore, so you do know a little bit about what I mean.
The Fillmore.
Yeah. It's nights like tonight that make it all worth living. It flew by a character, we flew by a chartered jet plane, Learjet actually, to Oswego, where we played. The band traveled in a real comfort, limousine, private jet, etc. The old ladies came along for this one, Jeannie and Gail and Sandy. As you could see, it was like a family gathering, a good family gathering. After a year, we're starting to understand each other. I'm very fortunate in many ways that I'm working with the best. The other three guys have much more than just their music to contribute to the world. They're beautiful guys and wonderfully gifted.
Okay, get it? Family. In Mountain, you found a family like that family, like this family. And I swear, Corky, when you read that stuff, it brings tears to my eyes because it's true, okay? What you say about these guys is what we all try to do in our lives, which is to bring something to the world. And you brought something to the world. You brought something to the world. You brought something to the world. You're all bringing something to the world. And for that, we give thanks. We're so happy that this book can be, shared now. Yeah. And these stories are forever, thanks to you and you. And it's a thing of beauty and a joy forever.
It went from the inventory here, which I love, whether it's on drums or whatever. All the inventory here went into that with Tuija. It was a joy, and I thank you so much for being here. This is big time. This is big time.
So let's open it up to any questions that anybody might have. Anybody have anything to ask Corky or Tuija about the process of this or anything else you ever wanted to know? I'll just tell you, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Mississippi Queen is one of the top 100 songs that was ever written in rock and roll. It was written at 30 Acres here in Nantucket. You can still hear it on your radio. Yeah, go ahead, Bo.
So I'm curious a bit how Nantucket became sort of your creating home, but also how, as a psychologist, you approach the book as letters to your mother. Sitting next to my mother, and obviously there's a deeper thing there.
So, why don't you answer? I can help you. So
My ears are shut.
So how? One of the side effects of drumming is loss of hearing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So let's just say he wanted to know two things, one from each of you. One about the letters, I know you're not a psychologist, but as a philosopher, how you related to the letters and what it was in them that you thought would make this book a piece of literature rather than just another rock and roll memoir. And the question for you was, how is it that Nantucket became your creative home?
Wow. Well, I did a lot of writing here with David Perry at his house just out on the other side. I don't know, we just wrote. Nikki would play drums, I would play some guitar. It was the place. That, to me, it was a cultural mecca of the world, Nantucket. Everybody thinks New York is. No, Nantucket is. It has all the honesty, all the sincerity, genuinely feelings that come across. So it was really easy to write here. Mississippi Queen was written right around the corner here, which I love that idea. So why wouldn't I come back and try to mustard and relish in that kind of vibe, right? So, yeah, and then Jasker's, we wrote here, this band Energy, we wrote because we had a chance to play. We had the freedom until Pesky fired us because we weren't playing cover songs on the radio, which was what happens. But we had the freedom to play our own material. And again, that has everything to do with, being at home. This was home. So even though I'm from Montreal, Nantucket really became the home,
It's about, I think, the spirit group that you meet and the creative energy that you connect to that you can't really ever find anyplace else. I mean, you're either at home on Nantucket or you're not, right?
Or you're lost.
And Corky was at home. So, and you, what was it about in the letters that you felt?
Let me just, I do want to say
tell
about
them about
Nantucket a little bit, because when we were writing the book, the beginning, I obviously hadn't been to Nantucket at all, so I was writing about the magical island of Nantucket, and I really, really wanted to visit it, because when you're writing about the place you've never been to, it's sort of, it's not, you can't feel it. But the first time we ever came here, I think it was like 4 years ago or something, and I immediately understood the magic that Corky was talking about. This place just felt special. There's something in the air, it's something probably before I even met anyone from here. It's very special. We drove across the island to Nantucket, and I felt, I've arrived. This is home. I have no idea why or what happened, but then I understood everything that Corky was saying about the island, and it was a lot more easier for me to then afterwards write about the island.
Yeah.
In terms of the other question, I really, really didn't have my academic head on when I was writing this book, apart from trying to structure the sentences properly and using proper words. Because my academic work it has a lot to do with logic and with proper arguments, and this is creative work. I didn't want it to interfere with this one. I was thinking that maybe later on I could look at this as an academic study and look at it from the viewpoint of in terms of philosophy of life or even the psychological aspect, and all the letters would provide a great piece for psychological or sociological study or anthropological study. So there's lots of material there for an academic study, but this was just me as a non-academic writer.
Yeah, as an artist, as a writer. Okay, I want to say three. You want to say anything else? I have three more things that I just want to say. So, from here, we're going to go to the brewery, where there's already a party in motion. Corky is going to play 3 songs there, with Julian Stanley and Floyd Kellogg. And it's going to be kind of fun, so if you want to come, I think it's free. It's like the party. Yeah, have a beer, have a drink. It's at 2:30 to 3, that's it. It's, whatever. What time is it now? 1:39. Okay, so we can keep going here for a while. We got an hour to get there. Okay.
Need to be there signing books, though.
But they're going to sign books, so we're going to... And the second thing I want to say is I'm wearing Russell Baker's shirt today from the 70s. I was over at his house one day, and he was throwing all these clothes out, and I said, Russ, wait, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm taking it to the dump. And I said, that shirt you're taking to the dump? And he said, yeah. So anyway, I'm wearing this shirt in his honor, because Russell Baker and David Halberstam and Frank Conray and those guys of the older generation were our heroes growing up here, right? Yep. And we knew them and we loved them and we played baseball with them, with Gene Mann pitching. And so anyway, in a funny way, what the book festival does is it certainly carries on a flame that they carried, a flame that you have kept lit, Dick, that you keep lit, So anyway, that's all good. And then there was one more thing. The book ends with a song that Corky wrote in Nashville, working with a buddy of his named Costas. And so I thought maybe you and I could do a duet here.
Ooh,
that you
okay.
read the C, you read C, I read J.
Is this like a Sonny and Cher
It's
thing?
Sonny and
Okay,
Cher.
okay. Okay, here we go.
You need the glasses
Okay.
again?
You have the glasses in your
Let's
pocket.
put it up.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a song called In This World.
Basically, I knew my mother was going to pass. She was sick. And talk about tearing up. I hope I don't, because, well, I'll tear up. What the hell? Okay, so I wrote this about my mom. You and I fly above the clouds, following behind the sun, and love that fills our hearts and love that fills our lives. Here you go.
You and I don't care about time. Time just leaves us all behind. But time is all we have, and time is what we share.
Oh, somebody's left behind without a sound. Oh, somebody's letting go and falling down. All things come and go, all things we've come to know, all things come and go in this world.
You and I will always be. You will always be with me. Wherever you may go, I will always know.
Oh, somebody's left behind without a sound. Oh, somebody's letting go and falling down. All things come and go, all things we've come to know. All things come and go in this world.
in this world. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you all.